This is the story of a bill. A bill about the greatest archaeological site in North America. A bill that has now been introduced 5 times, in 4 Congresses, across 7 years. 2019, introduced. Died in committee. 2021, introduced again, twice, actually, once in each chamber. Died in committee. Both of them. 2024, introduced again. Made it out of committee this time. Then died on the Senate calendar, quietly, like a houseplant nobody watered. 2025, introduced a 5th time. It is currently on the Senate calendar. Now, to be fair to Congress, none of these bills was ever voted down. Congress never says no. Congress simply lets the clock run out, and then, 2 years later, introduces the same bill with a fresh coat of paint. Let's look at the paint. Attempt 1. 2019. The Cahokia Mounds Mississippian Culture National Historical Park Act. A bold plan, create a national park. The bill had no findings section. No statement of what the site was, or when it was occupied, or why it mattered. Just, make it a park, and name the park after one culture. The Mississippians. It's right there in the title, which, spoiler alert, is the one part of this bill that will survive everything. The National Park Service came to the hearing in March of 2020 and said, politely, in official testimony, perhaps a study first? Perhaps we find out what the site is before we legislate what the site is. Congress heard this advice, thanked the witness and let the bill expire. Attempt 2. 2021. Same park, same title, but now, a new clause. For the first time, the bill promised to preserve access for native spiritual practices and expressions at the site. This was a genuinely good addition. A national park at a sacred indigenous site, with guaranteed spiritual access written into the law itself. One small wrinkle, the Senate and the House could not agree on the words. The Senate bill said Native American spiritual practices. The House bill, same park, same day, same purpose, said American Indian spiritual practices. 2 chambers, writing one law, about one sacred place, unable to synchronize on what to call the people it was sacred to. The Park Service came back to a second hearing in September 2022, and recommended, again, a study instead of a park. Their own witness defined the Mississippians, on the record, as the societies that lived after about A.D. 1000. Remember that number. Congress thanked the witness. The bills expired. And here is the part you should sit with. That spiritual practices clause, the one genuinely protective sentence in the whole bill family, was never seen again. It lived for exactly 1 Congress. Added in 2021. Gone by 2024. It did not die in a vote. It was simply not invited back. Attempt 3. 2024. Congress finally takes the Park Service's advice, 5 years later, and converts the park bill into a study bill. Progress. And now, for the first time, the bill gets a findings section. 7 findings. Congress, at last, tells us what Cahokia is. And what is it? Quote, remnants of Mississippian culture, which is, quote, the greatest prehistoric ancient culture in North America. The greatest. Prehistoric. Ancient. Culture. A phrase in which prehistoric and ancient are both doing the same job, and greatest is doing a job that archaeologists usually leave to, evidence. The findings say the city was inhabited from approximately A.D. 700 to 1400. And the study whose entire purpose is to determine the site's significance, is named, in advance, for one culture. The conclusion is in the title. The homework is assigned after the answer key. The bill goes to committee. And the committee reads the 7 findings, the greatest prehistoric ancient culture, the 700 to 1400, all of it, and issues its formal amendment, which is, strike out all after the enacting clause. All of it. Every finding. Deleted. The committee's considered editorial response to Congress's description of Cahokia was the legislative equivalent of select all, delete. In fairness, they added something too, a requirement to consult applicable Indian tribes. Which is good. It is also the quiet, lawyerly cousin of the spiritual practices promise that vanished. Consultation instead of guaranteed access. A meeting instead of a right. The amended bill made it to the Senate calendar, where it died. Attempt 5. 2025. The same study bill returns. The same 7 findings return, yes, including the greatest prehistoric ancient culture in North America. Congress reintroduced the exact findings its own committee had just deleted. The study area shrank from 6 satellite sites to 3. The report deadline stretched from 1 year to 3. And in 2026, the committee did precisely what it did the last time, struck every finding, added tribal consultation, and sent it to the calendar. Where it now sits, calendar number 478, where bills go to wait. And here's the joke underneath all the jokes. Through 5 bills, 7 years, 2 hearings, 2 committee rewrites, 1 vanished sacred practices clause, and 1 immortal title, the actual site never changed its story. The earliest dated occupation at the Cahokia precinct is not a theory. It is radiocarbon. Determinations on deposits at the site itself run from roughly 4,500 to 3,100 years before present. That is the late Archaic. That is around 2500 B.C. The bill's timeline starts at D700. The gap between what the ground says and what the findings said is about 3,000 years, which the legislation resolved by the traditional congressional method, not mentioning it. Paleo-Indian points. Archaic dates. Woodland ceramics. Colonial wall trenches in the Mound Zone First Terrace. 5 bills. 0 mentions. But the greatest prehistoric ancient culture in North America. That made the cut every single time. The bill will be back. It always comes back. And when it returns, it will carry the same title and probably the same findings, and its committee will probably delete them again. Legislative Groundhog Day, on a 4,000-year-old clock. Until then, one correction stands, free of charge, from the Radiocarbon Labs of America. Cahokia was never just Mississippian. The ground said so first.